Oh God, Dane.
Octopath Traveler became more popular than anyone thought it would. Using the right balance of old school nostalgia with new age techniques, this game was built to appeal to both veterans and newcomers to the RPG genre. In Octopath Travelers, you receive travelers. 8 of them. With those 8 party members, you also have 8 unique classes or jobs, as well as some hidden ones. These include your standard knights, thieves, priests, and so on. Similar to Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age, you also can gain a secondary class later in the game, making your party selection pivotal. Octopath Traveler allows you to use 4 party members in battle, and every character's primary class is locked. The secondary classes can only belong to one party member. The question, which character is best for which subclass, is the main determiner for this list. Also, at the end of the video, I'll talk about best class combinations for each character, as well as the optimal party. So let's get started with the tier. Cyrus is one of the best early game choices. His Scholar class is immensely strong in the opening hours, as you have yet to unlock the Broken Sorcerer class. Once you do though, Cyrus completely drops off the map. To keep him viable, you can give him the Sorcerer subclass, but that makes his primary class useless and is better given to characters like Primrose, Alphen, or Therion. If Scholar scaled or synergized better with any other subclass, he might be more viable, but better to just leave him in the dust. The low tier. Primrose may very well be the most interesting character story-wise, but when it comes to gameplay, her default class of Dancer holds her back from greatness. Most of the buffs and supports that come from the Dancer class are easily available in late game, making the remaining advantages of the class minimal to say the least. When it comes to secondary classes, her high speed complements the Scholar and Sorcerer's class, but unfortunately for her, Therion and his Thief class exist. Wasting either subclass on Primrose would be ridiculous, as Therion is a better pick in every conceivable way. OhRichard is a simple character. He's a powerhouse tank that is built to put out incredible damage. But similar to Primrose, he has a superior peer in Hanet, who can do anything he can, just better. The only subclass that truly fits OhRichard's build is the Warmaster class, which is much better applied to Hanet and her primary hunter job. If you choose him over her, it will likely only be for preference. The mid-tier. Ophelia is a very straightforward character. She's your main healer, and given the Dancer or Starseer subclass, can be turned into an alternate DPS or Ultra Support Mage. If push comes to shove, Alphen is a superior healer and support, but his skills are also a little more complicated to use and he takes more work to utilize, whereas Ophelia is about as basic an RPG healer as they come. Ultimately, you need one or the other, or both in your party, so you really can't go wrong. The top tier. Like I said before, Alphen is your best support character. His Apothecary class can heal just as well as the Priest, but requires no MP. But what really pushes him over the edge is his ability to generate BP for himself and the party. This allows the remaining 3 party members to go full out on damage, making him pivotal in an optimal end game team. After Alphen comes the brooding thief, Therion. The Thief class affords him high agility and multiple uses. He really complements most subclasses, but there really is no reason to do any of that, as the only true subclass for Therion is the Sorcerer. Double boosting Fire Element turns him into a Pyromancer capable of one-shotting most enemies in the game. His speed mixed with magical nuclear power make him the ultimate DPS, aside from our God tier. The God tier. Hanet is the ideal candidate for the subclass Warmaster. With her high accuracy, multi-hit skills like Arrow Storm take on a whole new meaning of pain. Her Hunter class is practically useless in early game, but once she gains access to enemies like Chubby Kates or Dreadwolves, she absolutely breaks the game. The final member of the God tier should be no surprise to any Octopath Traveler fan. Rune Lord Tressa is an absolute beast. Sidestep for the entire party is unbelievably busted, while double boosting Wind Element makes for a devastating attack. Those 2 factors alone rocket her to the God tier, even without mentioning that her Merchant class comes with abilities like Hired Help and BP Share. Ultimately, Tressa is easily the best character in the game. Now, as far as best class combinations for each character goes, we'll go in order of the tier list. First is Cyrus. Cyrus's is Scholar and I guess really anything else. Pretty much all subclasses are wasted on him. Primrose should be Dancer and Sorcerer or Scholar. She's a lesser Therion. Olberic is straightforward, Warrior, War Master. Ophelia is Priest and Starseer or Dancer. Alphen is Apothecary and Starseer. You can throw a Priest on him, but I wouldn't. Therion is Thief and Sorcerer, or you can go full evasion build and make him a Hunter. Hannet should be Hunter, War Master, hands down, and Tressa should always be Merchant and Runeblade. When it comes to optimal party, Sorcerer Therion, War Master Hannet, and Runeblade Tressa are locked in. The 4th spot should go to Alphen, unless using him is too complicated for you, in which case Ophelia is a great replacement. Octopath Traveler was a surprise hit for the Nintendo Switch, and its sequel, Octopath Traveler 2, was no exception. Taking what they learned from the first title, the devs created an instant masterpiece, one that gives you, once again, 8 travelers. Each of these characters come with a set job, and later in the playthrough you can give them a sub-job. Now, anyone who has played and optimized Octopath Traveler 2 will know that there isn't a single character in this game who can't be broken. That being said, there are objective facts that make some party members simply better than others. Anyway, you know the rest. We're going to find out which characters are best for your playthrough. And stick around till the end where we'll reveal the best sub-job for each character. We'll start with the tier. Oswald is one of the more setup heavy characters in Octo 2. If you build a team around setting up his damage, then he'll be a halfway decent DPS. He is one of your best casters, but physical damage in late and end game completely trumps magical damage. On top of that, his break skills are worse than most other party members. The best thing I can say here is that Oswald is a great top tier early game character and has a great enemy analysis ability. The low tier. Temenos is Oswald's superior, though he is also very setup heavy. He is a focused healer with decent breaking abilities. In the early and mid game, Temenos will be up there, but he'll fall off later in your playthrough as many other characters overshadow his abilities. What truly kept him from the tier is how exploitable his latent power is. Given the Scholar subclass, he'll be your main healer and breaker. Agnia is one of your main buffers. Not just that, but with the right build, she can nearly be untouchable with her incredible evasion potential. Though niche and situational in her usefulness, being able to avoid damage while buffing the party is incredibly handy. Similar to Temenos and Oswald though, her biggest weakness is that in the late and end game, she'll lose out on some usefulness, as many other characters will surpass her. Alright, let's move on to the mid tier. In the early and mid game, Particio will be a disgustingly broken BP battery. Donate BP can turn a DPS into a boss slaying machine. On top of this, he is optimal for mob clearing and farming during this time as well. Aside from obtaining and gifting BP, the only way Particio becomes viable in the late game is if he's given a class like Arcanist. Utilizing Arcanist, he can use skills like Diffusion, Rest, and Sidestep to become a decent end game support. His late game drop isn't because he won't be useful, but because other party members will replace his utility as they will gain BP battery abilities as well. Oshette's usefulness bounces around throughout your playthrough. In the early game, she'll be useful, but not amazing. In the mid game, she might just become one of the better party members in Octo 2. And as you enter the late and end game, with a lot of preparation, she can be viable. Grinding with Light Revenant early on will devastate almost any enemy in the mid game, and the levels will pour in. With her prepare ability and latent power, she can pretty much replace Agnia in support, and using Provoke Beasts, she can become the single best breaker in Octo 2. Like I mentioned, in the late game, she won't be as useful as some of our top tier members, only because catching rare monsters can take a lot of time and setup. But overall, Oshette is an absolute beast. The top tier. Throne absolutely shines in the late and end game. Her latent power is one of the best in the game, and her EX skill can wipe bosses off the map. With Throne, you trade the tankiness of Hikari for speed, which makes her squishy but also gives her extra turns. Disguise can be used situationally and isn't always useful, but with the right build it can be interesting. Her debuffing is absolutely broken in the late game, and her damage rivals Hikari's. All things considered, though she will lag behind in the early game, Throne is an epic character to take along on your journey. Hikaru does almost everything better than any other character we've covered so far. He can tank, is one of the better DPS, is great at breaking the enemy, and requires little to no setup from other party members to reach his full potential. Hikari's effortless damage will reach top tier levels in the mid game and steadily increase from there. Throw on some incredible learned skills like Limb to Limb, Boost from Beyond, Merciless Blade, Last Gasp, and Divine Protection, and you have one of the most versatile party members in Octo 2. The God Tier. Casti breaks Octopath Traveler 2 with her Concoct skill. Given late game material, she will make beating this game a breeze. Concoct literally does everything from healing HP and SP, to buffing party members, to breaking and debuffing enemies. Her BP generation is limitless, and her poison damage is absolutely insane. She'll cover all your support needs with a single skill. Ultimately, the only thing she might get passed up in is straight up damage, but that's debatable. All in all, I don't think many people will argue the fact that Casti is straight up the best party member in Octopath Traveler 2. Now, as for each character's best subclass, we'll go in order of the tier list. Oswald should be given the Cleric subjob, which will give him immense elemental coverage. Temenos needs the Scholar subclass to hit his top DPS potential. Agnia should be given the Inventor, which will upgrade her buffing and debuffing abilities. Like I mentioned, Particio should be given the Arcanist class, which turns him from a top mid-game party member to a late-game party member. Ochette should be given the Warrior class, which will improve her physical damage and weapon versatility. Throne should be given the Dancer subclass, which will increase her buffing, debuffing, and damage abilities. For Hikari, you'll want to give him the Arm Master to make him a God tier tank and DPS. And finally, Casti should be given the Cleric subclass to finalize her top role as a support unit. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and thank you to all my Patreon members. If you'd like to become a Patreon member and request your own list, check out the link in the description below.